And our first job is a Worcester service. Al's happy.
Not fun. Not fun.
So the good thing about this one, we haven't got no ribbing on the heat exchanger, which is always a good sign. So it means that it's not been running dry or anything.
You tried them? I'll bring my...
What's that?
I got the Karcher one.
Oh, you got the Karcher one?
I'll have a go.
Hey, we'll have a go at that. So I'm going to be doing a full service on this Worcester. So I've got all the seals and everything. We've got everything in here. You know me, van stock. Oh, I've got some biscuits. You want some biscuits? I don't know if they're gluten free though.
They're definitely not for biscuits.
No. What do we need?
Did you come prepared with biscuits?
I came prepared with biscuits as well. Bearing plate. Those are for a compact, which I'm doing next, and standard electrodes. So we've got the standard servicing bits. Let's start stripping this bad boy out and see what we find. So we're just recharging the vessel. That was completely flat. Bit of shit inside the sump already. Once we recharge the vessel and everything, we'll start stripping out the burner. So we've got the burner out. Well, not the burner, so the fan assembly out. Just changing over the gas tube. That's the old original one. So we've put the new gas tube on. Going to change the O-ring on it. Let's get this off as well. So if you, from this red bit, turn it clockwise, 1/4 turn. That's it, pop it off. And then inside here we've got the bearing plate. So that is basically just that. So just pull it out and just pop that one in. And we'll also disconnect the fan from here and change the fan seal on it as well. Al's having fun trying to get the burner out. We've all been there.
Taking that out. Mate, this is crazy.
It's such a poor design how to get that burner out. There we go. Got it. So I'm being shown up by Alan here. He's well, that's the situation with my garden sprayer because he's got the Karcher. What's the model number of this? OC something?
Can't remember. This,
Can't
I see
remember.
this from Briggsy and SMH.
That's it.
They're the guys like that.
It is very good.
His anti-bit kit.
But when the battery dies, you gotta go back to this.
Battery did not die. Battery did not die. Okay?
It didn't. So the boiler's all back together. It's working. The burner's on. And we're just gonna finish off with our 26.9 checks. How'd you find that out?
Very good job.
Very good, very good.
It was good, mate. It wasn't bad.
Wasn't too bad, was it?
No.
It's actually probably one of the cleanest green stars I've seen in a long time.
What, nearly 10 years old, and look at it.
Yeah.
Fresh.
Looks,
and a nice
looks
install as well. It's a nice change, isn't it?
Yeah. It's better than some of the ones that I've seen that I chucked in, what, a year ago even. Alright. All I seem to be getting recently is Worcester compact CDI services, but yeah, this one's a bit awkward working on it. It's only a heat only, so I haven't got to do anything in there other than try and get to the condensate trap. Even that doesn't open fully because you've got the hot drawer from the unvented cylinder, so I've had to mangle it to get it off, but just trying to get the burner off and then give it a clean inside. Right, let's have a look inside. Yeah, that's never been opened up really. That's okay, give that a clean. Okay, so just giving it a clean and flush through. It's difficult to see everything properly, but better than what it was. So here we have a Glow M24 CI, which is completely dead on arrival. The tenant originally complained that there was no hot water, heating was running fine, but when I arrived at the property she said that the boiler was just completely dead now. So initially I checked the 3 amp fuse, which was dead. So I've got myself a few more fuses to try and carry out a few more electrical tests. Popped a new fuse in and still nothing. Boiler's completely dead. Having a bit of a fiddle with the selector switch to see if perhaps that's blown. Initially I'm thinking it might be the PCB that's gone, but with no power going to it, went to the fuse board and saw that the MCB had actually tripped for the boiler itself. So we're trying it again, flick the power on and boiler comes on. So at least we know that the PCB is working fine as far as I can tell. So just giving the boiler a demand to make sure it goes through its ignition sequence and it fires up, which it does. However, shortly after this video, the boiler just conked out again and the MCB tripped again. So you see it fire up, and then the next bit I'll show you is where I actually find out what the fault was. So as the tenant had previously complained that the problem was with the hot water and the heating was working fine, I thought let me have a look at the diverter valve. Now the diverter valve on this boiler sits directly behind the gas valve, so in order to inspect it or do any work on it, you've got to remove the gas valve. So as you can see, where I've moved the gas valve out the way, I've zoomed in here, you can see that the diverter cartridge has actually been leaking, and where it's leaked, it's getting onto the actuator motor head, and that's what's causing it to short circuit and causing it to trip out. Okay, so I've just gone and got the parts from the shop. I've got half an hour to get this job done because the parking restrictions end at 11. The time now is 10:30, so let's try and get this done as quick as possible. As you can see, it's quite tight inside the boiler. The only way to really get onto that cartridge is you need a pair of grips and make small turns to try and loosen it anti-clockwise until you can get the whole thing out. So here we've got the old cartridge out, just doing a little side-by-side comparison with the new one. You can see the old one was completely gone, so definitely needed changing, and also the actuator motor as well. Put it all back together, fired it on. Yes, we've got power. Just need to top up some pressure and then test the heating hot water and make sure that the boiler stays on. So the heating's working fine, boiler stays on. Most important part now, we want to test the hot water because that's what the tenant was originally complaining about. So straight away, the boiler's recognizing the demand, it fires up, and here we just want to make sure that we're getting a good temperature rise on the hot water. Right, got that one done. Just on 11. Let's see if I've got a ticket. That looks good. No ticket. Let's get on to the next one. Right, so back at this Viessmann that I was servicing the other day. So we've noticed at the time that flow and return hoses were a bit crunchy. And since I've been, the customers complained about the hot water issue. It started to overheat, so we've got an issue with the plate getting blocked. I reckon some of the debris from the hoses has gone into there. So going to be changing the flow and return hoses and cleaning out the plate. So I've got all the bits here. So I've got all the new flow and return hoses there. Unfortunately for the return hose, it goes up the back. I've done a separate video on this, so I'll put a link in the description below for how I've done this job from start to finish. But yeah, the main heat exchanger has got to come out in order to change the return hose, which is a bit of a ball ache, but it is what it is. Okay, so I've got the burner and everything out. That's the same as how you do on a service. Taking the front, the flow hose off. So that's this here, and if you listen to it, and you can see all that. We'll see what the plate's like when we take the plate out. So to take the main heat exchanger out, undo your overheat stack connection and everything. I undo the turret screws as well, and then you've got 3 10mm nuts. So you've got one there, one at the top there, and one on the top left there. So you need to undo that. Then this will literally be ready to come off, and this is the heaviest part. Getting it out, in and out, is just awkward. It's not necessarily difficult, but it's just because it's heavy and it's awkward to get it back in. And the most awkward is when you put it back in, you've got to slide it up into the turret. So you try and loosen it to give you a bit of room, but then sometimes the lip seal will drop inside and then you've got to take it out again and do it again. But let's have a look. There we have it, heat exchangers out. So this is the seal that I normally just have a quick look at to see if it needs replacing. This one seems in good condition, so a bit of silicone grease and that will go back on. And this is why you have to take the heat exchanger out, because the back of it, that's where the return connection is. So that if you imagine it's sitting, it's going to roll about, comes in from the back, where you can see where that mark is, comes around the back and then into the pump side. So yeah, just going to get this replaced, give this a little flush through to make sure there's no debris left inside, pop it back together, and need to clean the plate as well. So we're just flushing out the main heat exchanger, so I've just got a hose onto there. It's coming off one of the kitchen flexis. That's running clear. We had a bit of orange gunk come out of it, but now that's running nice and clear. So we know there's no chance of any more dirt going back into the new hoses that we're going to be fitting. Right, plates out. There's just two 4mm Allen key screws, and yeah, you can see where the blockage is. It's all that crap from the hoses. It's made its way down into the plate. So I'm going to give that a clean with some spirits or salts. You can see that's already starting to get to work. So I had a little bit left in this bottle, and as soon as I tipped it in, it's not even going through yet. So I need to wait until that's broken down, all the deposits in there, and it's able to run through. Then I can add more and then flush out with water, etc. Okay, so plate's all nice and clean, so you can actually see through it on both sides. So just gonna put a bit of grease on there, put a bit of grease on the O-rings, get the plate in, and then get the main heat exchanger in. Okay, so I've got the main heat exchanger in, but it's not all as it seems. You know, I was telling you, if you have a look in the mirror, I'm trying to get it to focus. So around the back, I don't know if you're about to see the turret seal has come out the main heat exchanger there. Means I've got to take it out again. Try and make sure that doesn't slip out. It's at the back. I always find that turret slips into the main heat exchanger, which is really annoying because that's not light. Right, I've got to take it out again now. And that's what I mean. That bit at the back gets pinched and then drops into the main heat exchanger. So it's a bit of a struggle doing it on your own. Try and make sure that don't slip. I've greased it all up. Greased the turret as well. Let's just add a bit more grease to it maybe. See if that helps. A bit more at the back here. Yeah, this is the most annoying bit about getting this back in. Normally if I mean elbows all sealed in, but I would normally pop that up then push it in, but I haven't really got any play on that either. So this is how I'm gonna have to try it. Right, so that's in now. Let's see if I can zoom in so you guys can see there around the back. That's all tucked in nicely. The turret still hasn't slipped this time. So it took me 2 goes to do it, but yeah, that's in. Turret's all screwed out the top. Now I can do the flow connection back into there, put the return connection into there, do up the contents, do the rest of it, and then 26.9 checks. Right, heat exchangers back in, flow and return hoses done. Back up to pressure. Now just gonna rebuild the rest of it. So heating's working fine. Now let's test the hot water. Get a hot water demand. There we go. So before this was shooting up to like over 90 degrees. But now that's actually cooling itself down, which is what we want. Let's see what the temperature is doing here. Yeah, that's looking good. It's looking much better. Probably going to get to about 50 odd degrees. that's okay. And let's just check the boiler temperature. 57, yeah. No overheating. Nice steady temperature coming out the taps. Job done, happy days. Right, so today's job, I've got a few radiators to do. So I'll just take you upstairs. So working in Forest Gate, I think, with Josh. So we've got one radiator that's going to be going here. All column radiators. There's one that's going to be going in there. Got two going in here. Just getting floors up. There's going to be one going there. And I believe there's either, yeah, just the one going in here. One or two. Can't remember exactly, but yeah, got a few radiators to do. Luckily we saw blank canvas. Going to take up all the floors, adjust the pipework under the floor. Some of these are going to be sitting on the floor, some of them are going to be wall hung. And yeah, so at the moment we're just in the process of taking the floors up and going to get the radiators hung first and then start doing the pipework to it. Okay, so working on these two radiators at the moment. So one's going to go here, the other one's going to go under that windowsill. Just taking up the floorboards, having to do a little bit of jiggery pokery with the pipework and to actually get the soldering stuff out today, not pressing. Got this from Aldi a little while ago. Everyone obviously raves about the pipe vise. This is, I think, cost me about £8. Does the same job.
All back nice and neatly and then put it back out again.
That's all right.
No, I mean, humble beginnings and that.
Okay, so we've got one pipe done here, so I've had to get the twin lasers out so I could get one that way, just to make sure that we've got our pipe nice and level. We've left it long. Once we put the radiator on, we'll then cut it down and get into position. Now I've just got to do the left-hand side. Josh is working on that one on the left. How are you getting on? To the left. To the left, to the left. So pipework in here is done. So we've got those two tails there for those two radiators. Two tails there coming up. Now the issue we've got here is they're going to be getting flooring laid on here, but they're going to have to level the floor out. So that's why we've left the copper tails a little bit taller. So we're not actually going to be fitting the radiators today. We're going to make sure that they're in position, cap them off. Once the floorings come, then Josh is going to come back, trim the pipes down to whatever level that we need them at, and then basically fit the radiators. So while that one's done, I am going to be starting on this one. So this one's going to go on the wall. So the way I tend to do this, you'll probably see I've done a video before on how I do these column rads. Again, I'll put a link in the description below, so have a look at that if you want to see how I do this. But what I tend to do is the bottom brackets, I'm going to just line them up with the skirting. So that'll be my base line at the bottom. And then the top ones, I'll hang the radiator onto the bottom brackets, swing it against the wall, and then hook these up from behind, mark it up, and that will be where my top brackets go. So I only really need to do the bottom ones, and then from there I'll be able to get my markings for the top brackets. So there we go, so the bottom brackets are on, and then this basically just swings back and forth at the moment, and all I'll do, that's the center. So I'll literally just, that was close, mark that there, push that up against the wall, mark where the bracket's going to sit, make my hole, and then do the other two. And there we go, that one's done. Just got to sort out the pipework for it and then move on to the next one. Okay, so we've just finished doing all the rads. So there's one on the wall there. These two have been mocked up, so we haven't piped them into the valves yet because customers getting flooring done, so we've left the tails long, but we just made sure that they're going to marry up to the valves. Got to come back once the flooring's done, drop them, cut the pipes, and then pipe it all up. That one's done there as well. We've got one here, so again, got our two tails coming up, and that we're just going to push against it to make sure that all marries up. One in the kitchen, so this one is a little bit awkward because it's going on feet, but it also needs a bracket at the top. So that's going to be going there, but we can't put the bracket on until we know what the finished floor level is going to be. So again, tails are done, so we know exactly where it's going to sit. And then, oh, someone's calling me. So yeah, that's gonna go on there. Once the finished floor level's done, then we can put the bracket on at the top to sort of hold it against the wall. And the last one is this one in the hallway. So that's, we had pipes coming out the wall there. So I've just had to cut on either side and then come up to there. So that one's all piped up as well. So we've gone for solder today rather than pressing, just to make it easy, because we had to do bits on the floorboards. I couldn't get the press gun in, so I just thought, just gonna do solder everything. But yeah, that's all done. We're just gonna have a little tidy up and then finish up for the day. So I'm sure you guys are interested in knowing what was the outcome of that Vaillant job that I went to, which completely blew my mind. Didn't know what was going on with it. So the customer had Vaillant go out there. The Vaillant engineer supposedly changed the mass flow sensor again, put a new gas valve in, and it's all working. Now this, I'm not really convinced, because there was a brand new mass flow sensor in there. We changed the gas valve, we put a new one in that we had. It didn't make a difference, so we took it out and put the original one back in. But apparently he changed those two parts and it's working fine. Now I don't think we're really going to get to the bottom of this, because to be honest, after that job things went a little bit sour with the customer, because she was refusing to pay for our time that we spent doing it. She said, oh, you didn't get the boiler working. Then started coming up with all these sort of things about, oh, I had home emergency cover, I had boiler care cover, I could have done that. So things just didn't make sense. Managed to get a part payment from the customer. Ultimately, I wanted to know what was wrong with the boiler, what actually was wrong with it, and what caused that to happen, and what needed to be done to fix it. But I don't think I'll really ever get down to the bottom of it. So it's one of those ones, unfortunately. There you go.